Paltrocast.
So I'm going to say good afternoon. It's afternoon to you, right?
Yes.
Cool. How is your day going aside from fielding media questions where they ask all sorts of invasive things that are hard?
No one's asked anything invasive, so I'm excited to see what you might have to offer.
Well, you are fascinating because not only are you in one of the biggest groups in the world, but the Juilliard background, you had this amazing performance pedigree and education level before all this. So how long did you have to keep it a secret that you were joining Il Divo?
So I will say, and actually you are the second person to ask me this, and people generally don't bring this up. So my Wikipedia page is not reflective of what my actual life was. However, what I learned is you're not allowed to edit your own Wikipedia page, and somehow Wikipedia will know if you did it. I did not go to Juilliard, but my partner did go to Juilliard and actually runs the voice program at Juilliard. Therefore, whomever did my Wikipedia page actually combined our two careers together, and that's that. So I didn't go to Juilliard. But if anyone out there would like to do some research on me, edit my Wikipedia page, you're welcome to do so. You're not allowed to do your own Wikipedia page. Let's all make that clear.
But to be clear, because you clarified that in this article, that means that this is the source to correct that information.
Exactly. You are source number one, and you heard it here first.
I'm making all the tabloid headlines. Well, either way, I'm still seeing your bio on your website. That is very, very impressive. So how long did you have to keep it a secret of, oh, I'm just joining one of the biggest groups in the world and that kind of a thing?
So, actually, when it first happened, I was doing a show when I was meant to just substitute for Carlos, who had fallen ill, and then he had passed away, and then the guys wanted to do a memorial tour for him. And so it was really short. I actually didn't know when the announcement was going to be made that I was going to be a special guest on the tour. But then, we did this tour and we did it for almost a year. And basically, it was almost a year by the time we had decided that we wanted to record the album and go forward together as a complete group. With me on the album, because so many decisions had to be made, about what songs we were going to choose, everything, who we're going to use as a producer, what the prices were going to be. So I had to be included in all of this, all of those decisions. So as a result, they had asked me at one point, and then it was like, okay, this is a big secret until the time comes that it will be announced. And actually we waited until we were actually recording the album in Miami with our producer Carlos Lopez to make the announcement that I would be a full member of the group.
So you're good at keeping secrets. That's what I'm hearing.
I'm really good at keeping secrets. So if anyone wants to tell me anything, the juicier the better. I'm better at keeping it.
There you go. So this new album, do you call it 20 or do you say XX?
We call it double X.
Oh, okay. That works. So when did you actually finish the record?
So we finished it. We finished recording at the end of August. And then after that was all like production stuff, choosing a photo for the cover, choosing photos for the inside, post-production edits and things like that, how we wanted things to sound, et cetera, et cetera. So I would say probably end of September was when everything was delivered.
Wow. So when you have that done, and then you know that ultimately the album is a January, February, March-ish release because everything is at least 3 months for the teams to set it up and all that. Do you take a vacation? Do you go quiet and dark for a couple months, knowing then the next 2 years are going to be a whirlwind?
Well, what's funny is actually Sebastian Isambard and I, right after we finished doing our vocals, the very next day we flew together, or that night actually, we flew together to LA, and then we drove to Santa Barbara where he lives, and then from there we took an RV to Burning Man for an entire week where we were both like off grid for it was supposed to be 7 days, but then there was that flooding that happened there, which was like unprecedented. So then we were stuck there extra time. Even it was wild. But yeah, and so many things were happening even during that time. I had to find Wi-Fi so I could say, oh yes, that, and then I would relay messages to Seb every time I would see him. And then we actually just went on tour like right after. So Burning Man ended September, and then early October, we started like a world tour around, Europe, Asia, Australia, and then Christmas in the US. to kind of finish up the New Day tour that we had started last year. But now this time, me as an official member, and now I think now we're just having the little bit of downtime that we're going to have until the tour starts in end of April.
On that end of the year touring, were you doing anything from this new record?
As the singles started coming out, so our first single was Crazy,
Mhm.
that came out in October, and once it came out, we did include it in the show. And then the second single was No Tengo Nada, which is the Whitney Houston's I Have Nothing. And once that came out, we included it in the show. And then in addition to, this Double X album, we also recorded 4 Christmas songs. So we started doing those on some news programs and things like that. And then we were doing those on well, obviously the Christmas show. So and then with the Christmas show, a little gift from us to everyone in the audience was to also perform the singles that had come out from the album. And since then, we had 2 more singles, Perfect
Yeah.
and Despacito, and those have come out, and we haven't performed those yet. But we did do a performance live in Taiwan where we did perform several songs from the new album, and that'll be coming out on PBS pretty soon. I think locally, it's kind of hard to know because locally it comes out like in
Right.
various stages
Mark.
depending
Yeah.
on the local market. Yeah. So really excited about that. I think that comes out on the 23rd of February.
Well, a fascinating thing to me, at least, about when you do a new record along these lines is that most classic artists, when they go, here's a song from our new album, people go to the bathroom, people go to get the t-shirt, etc. In this case, here's our new single, and it's a song by Ed Sheeran or Bieber or something like that, or Whitney Houston. That's actually what people probably want to hear the most.
Yeah, and it was actually really an interesting process to pick songs, and I think that we each have all 4 of us have certain songs that were really close to us. The Whitney Houston one is one of the songs I really wanted to do. I just had a vision about it, and I was like, oh, this would sound so good, us doing it, and I would love to sing this. And of course, we did it in Spanish, and actually, Urs was the one who did the Spanish transliteration to it, the Spanish lyrics. And then Hoy Tengo Ganas de Ti, which is my favorite song on the album, was also a song I wanted to do. And I was like, we would sound so good doing this. And we gave it this really sexy James Bond feel. And then, Crazy was something that Seb had an idea for. And then Despacito was a song that Urs had an idea for. So we all kind of like have these songs on the album that were really close to us. And then as they were being developed, because we had a hand as executive producers in every aspect of the album. So as they were being developed, we were like, oh, the style doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel right. What about we did like this? We had endless phone calls. Sometimes the phone calls would last 4 hours, just the 4 of us on the phone being like, how are we going to accomplish this? How are we going to do this part? So it was a lot of work and a lot of thought put into it. And we're really, really proud of what we put out at this point. And I think, there's some real elements of like classic Il Divo style, which is like some mystery, some
Mhm.
like soft moments, some explosive climaxes. And then there's some kind of um, newer elements, like Perfect or like Crazy that has these kind of modern sounds to it, or even taking a super modern song that everyone knows of Luis Fonsi,
Mhm.
Despacito, and we brought it into our own universe with this kind of really epic orchestration and really more classical style. So I think it's just like giving these unexpected twists and turns to certain pieces of music that people even know or like know a certain way, but kind of giving it our stamp.
So these songs that we're talking about from this new record, more of the pop and Latin directions, but you come from what we know, at least the classical and operatic background. Were you always a pop and rock fan who just happened to be studying the classical and operatic approaches to music?
I'm not like so well versed on pop music, but what really attracts me is really, really good vocalization, like really good singing. I just love good singing. So that's why I love Christina Aguilera. That's why I love Whitney Houston. That's why I love Kelly Clarkson. Like these are the things that really attract me as a singer because I feel like
Yeah.
maybe other singers are like this too, but when you hear like some really good singing or you feel good singing, you can feel it kind of sympathetically in your own uh, vocal mechanism. So you hear Whitney Houston, or you hear Christina Aguilera, and you hear the fullness in their voices, and you're like, ah, yeah, you just like feel it in your body. And so for me, that's what really attracts me about singing. So when I hear a really powerhouse ballad, then that's when I'm like, wow, I would love to sing that.
Got it. Did you grow up in playing in garage bands or doing college a cappella or anything traditional like that?
I grew up, I just loved, I loved singing. and I loved some like classical musical theater and things like that. So I did grow up doing that. I had friends when I was growing up who were like in garage bands and stuff, but I was never quite that cool to skate or to play guitar or drums or something like that. So I was mostly like the guy who liked to sing in a like kind of a big classical way. So I started taking voice lessons when I was in high school, and I just loved doing that.
So no cheesy college a cappella group that had a pun kind of name in your past?
Um, in high school, I didn't actually go to college because I went to a school called the Academy of Vocal Arts. Whomever is listening can include this in my Wikipedia page.
Not Juilliard Academy.
Not Juilliard.
Okay.
I went to a school called the Academy of Vocal Arts,
Yeah.
and it's strictly a singing school, strictly an opera school, and it's actually for postgraduates. But I was I was an early bloomer. And I was always so interested in singing that when I was in high school, I would take voice lessons. I would go practice for couple hours a day. Like I
Mhm.
think probably a lot of 14, 15-year-olds probably were not doing that.
No.
Maybe they do. I know like, pianists and violinists definitely do. I don't know about singing. But it caught on to me quickly because maybe I had a natural innate desire to an ability to do it, or maybe it's because I practiced hard. I don't know. But um I ended up going there kind of straight out of the gate, and that's kind of where I started. So I did start like kind of with classical pretty early on. But when I was younger, I did sing like Mexican music. My mother's Mexican, so I did sing Mexican music, and I did sing some like kind of standards, Frank Sinatra, stuff like that. And
Hmm.
Josh Groban was coming around at the time that I was in high school. And actually Il Divo was just making its way when, 2004, 20 years ago, when I was just starting to take voice lessons too. But yeah.
Got it. Well, a couple more quick questions that are hopefully softballs and easy before I let you go on your way. And the first one is Il Divo. It's remarkable how big Il Divo is all over the world. And I say that because one of my favorite bands, Van Halen, this is not a Van Halen interview. But Van Halen, we find out, was just huge in kind of US, Canada, a little bit of the UK, a little bit of the Netherlands and Japan, and that's it. So the Van Halen tours did not really go to Spain. They didn't go to Greece. Il Divo goes to all those places and the big markets of the US and all that. Is there any place you haven't yet been on tour that you're hoping will pop up on a future itinerary so you could be essentially paid to travel?
I mean, these guys for the last 20 years have been going everywhere, everywhere. I think the place or the area that we haven't yet been is like parts of the Middle East. But we hit so many spots in this last tour. We were, all over Asia. I love Japan. I had been to Japan for the very first time not last year, but the year before, as like the second country that we started what we did on the tour, and it's such a beautiful
Mhm.
country. I really enjoyed it there. It's just so interesting to see so many different cultures, and I love going to South America. It's just so big and vast, and the flights are so long, and the countries are so different. It's cool. So at this point, I think the Middle East is probably the only one we haven't been to while I've been in the group. But mostly everywhere else, I feel like we've covered. But I've been, I love traveling, so I'm actually having time off here. I'm like, okay, where should I go? Should I like leave somewhere? Because I'm getting bored.
Oh, well, follow-up question, because you and the other gentlemen in this band are very hands-on when it comes to song selection, arrangements, etc. Would we ever see a Steven solo album in the future?
I have been thinking about it for a while, and I have an idea that I would like to come to fruition. And yeah, so I think I would love to do a solo album. I think that would be a fun side project.
Cool. One day, not rushing the process on that. And then the last question, not intended to be stupid one. The first time I ever saw your last name was with relation to the band Dream Theater. The singer James has your last name. Any
James,
relation?
no, but James, reach out. Maybe we are related. Actually, I do. There's a guy in Florida, in South Florida, who is also named James LaBrie. And he has come into a couple of my concerts like as a soloist before I joined Il Divo, and he's brought me a family tree. And we are related, but yeah, I don't know that James LaBrie. But hey, happy to get to know him.
And his son Chance, also a great drummer. I forget the name of his band, Falset or something like that. But either way, Stephen, congrats on the new record. Glad that it's not slowing down anytime soon. Glad we may eventually get a solo record from you. And congrats on the success. And looking forward to your updated Wikipedia page.
Yeah. Thank you so much. This has been fun. Thanks for having me.
Paltrocast.